Welcome to the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel for the first game week review and preview of the season. Today I'm joined by the big man Bakar. We're going to have a quick look back at your game week, see how it went before getting into some dilemmas for your team for game week 2. Bakar, how was game week 1?
Yeah, cheers for having me, Jack. Hello and welcome to all the listeners and viewers. Game week 1 was all right. I got 76 points, which isn't bad. It isn't great either, but I'm happy to take that because at this point in the season, I mean, the first 8 to 10 weeks, it's important to stay with the rest of the pack. And as long as I'm doing that, I am content because, I know that the big gains will be made at the end of the season with the double game weeks and all. So I just didn't want to end up on the wrong side of variance. And yeah, it turned out to be pretty good because some 50-50s went my way, some didn't. But I mean, that's life.
So let's have a look at your team quickly. 1.5 million rank. Do you care that much about rank at this stage of the season?
No.
Or is it, just good to get a good score game week 1, not lose too much ground?
Exactly. As long as I'm staying with the rest of the pack, with the engaged managers, I'm fairly content.
Let's talk about your team. What went well? What were you less happy with overall? It's a good score, right? But could there have been some improvements?
It's a good score. I mean, Jackson was one that let me down, that one pointer, especially when others had Watkins and Pedro who delivered. Jackson had 3 big chances and he missed all of them. So, I mean, that was a bit brutal. But hopefully with Chelsea's fixtures coming up, I'm expecting things to go his way. And he looked good. I mean, it's good to be getting chances at least at this stage of the season. Very happy to have picked Saka, Martinelli, Haaland, Bumo. I was very torn between Bumo and Richarlison actually before the deadline.
Oh, wow.
And at the very end, I swapped Richarlison out for Mbumo. So I'm very, very happy that I went with Mbumo because the fixtures now are great. He's on penalties. He should have scored twice, actually. Missed a sitter as well. So yeah, that's one which went in my favor. Saliba over Gabriel, right?
We got to talk about it.
Team leaks. Yeah, I mean, right after team leaks, that went well. It could have been even better, but I'm happy with the 5 points that I got. Stupen and Chilwell went well. Pickford, I saw the whole game. Everton were dominant until the first 70 minutes. They didn't really have Fulham get a single chance really, and then they just switched off for a minute and that was it. They let in that odd goal, but that's what you get with 4.5 million keepers, right? So I'm slightly disappointed to have picked Pickford over Onana because I do have 0.5 million in the bank, but I sort of let it stay there because I was still not sure, as in I wanted to give myself some flexibility heading into this week for some future transfers. And Bumo to Richarlison was potentially one that I had in mind. I picked James and he looked really good along with Chilwell. So I'm happy to have James on my bench for the upcoming fixtures as well.
Yeah, exactly. Very strong first bench. It seems like you're very well set up. You have the 3 Chelsea players that I think a lot of us, to be fair, are probably going to be moving towards very soon. And yeah, with Pickford, variance game week 1 already. Him compared to Onana, I don't know. Definitely should have lost the clean sheet and then should have conceded a penalty as well. Very
lucky. Jammy.
Yeah. Very, very jammy. And I, as an Onana owner, will happily take that. But let's now have a look at your team moving forward for game week 2. Okay, mate, here is your team for game week 2. It's looking very strong. Game week rating of 96% according to Fantasy Football Hub's My Team tool. What are you thinking just off the bat with it?
What would you do in my position, Jack?
Oh, 100% roll. I think it's a pretty easy roll for your team. It looks very well set up. Yeah. Unless you're thinking of a move, I don't see an obvious one that jumps out. You have the 3 Chelsea in place now that looks strong. The question is, do you start Saliba over someone else? Probably not, right? So James comes into the team. And yeah, I think I'd just play Turner and be okay with it. What are you thinking? You thinking of a move?
Yeah, so in my opinion, unless you have let's say Gabriel and you're not sure whether he's going to start or not, or unless you're looking to move for a Chelsea defender like Chilwell or James, I don't really see the point in moving this week because 2 free transfers heading into game week 3 will add a lot of flexibility. And as someone who does not own Gabriel, as someone who has 3 Chelsea already, I feel as if I'm well set up for the weeks to come. I don't necessarily like my team for this week alone, but I think it's well set up for the times to come, which is why I don't want to change it. I think I'm in a good position that way. I do have a benching headache. In fact, there are 2. I mean, Pickford and Turner. I'd go with Turner. I'd pick Turner because when I look at Sheffield United, they don't really have a fit striker as such. Even this week, they had the fewest chances of all the teams in the league. 0 big chances, 19th for XG, Sheffield United. So I think there's an outside chance that I get lucky with the Turner clean sheet. And I'm going to play James and Chilwell along with the Stupinan over Saliba, simply because I think all those 3 fullbacks, they were right up there for touches in the final third this week, and I think they have much more upside than Saliba.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Saliba is quite a tough fixture anyway for clean sheets. Not saying that West Ham away is easy, but yeah, when you have James and Chilwell who are both so attacking, even James in that game posted some great numbers and was very attacking, then yeah, it's very hard to bench either of those. The question is though, is there something that you could do? Is there a fun move that you could do to exploit the current game week? As you say, a lot of away fixtures, it doesn't look amazing. Yeah, the team rating, the game week rating is very good at 96%. But I'm just looking at the likes of Bruno and Rashford away to Tottenham after a terrible first game. What are you thinking about those two in particular? Should we stick with our United assets?
I mean, United were abysmal against Wolves, weren't they? But it's one of those where you've picked two players for the long run. We've seen over a large sample size that they're elite FPL performers, and I won't let one game put me off my initial selection. United still have a very good run of fixtures to come. I think Spurs under Postecoglou are ridiculously attacking, and as we saw, Brentford got plenty of joy on the break, and I expect United to have the same. And similarly, against Forest again next week. Forest away aren't exactly great, so I'd expect these two players to do well. So I'm not rushing into removing either of them. I'm happy to give them more time, and I'm hoping that they find their form back before game week 2.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Now, you mentioned Gabriel, and I think if people have 0.5 million in the bank, the move to a 5.5, probably the Chelsea defender that you don't own, is quite an obvious one. But what if you don't have any money in the bank and you have Gabriel? What would you suggest then?
I think in that scenario, I would probably keep Gabriel, simply because I don't think that a sideways transfer of Gabriel to Saliba is probably worth it. Because I think there's a chance that Gabriel comes back in this week against Crystal Palace. Arteta in his post-match comments did suggest that Gabriel was dropped because of tactical reasons and because they expected to have a lot of possession, because they wanted to have more bodies forward. But Crystal Palace away is not the easiest of fixtures, and I would expect Gabriel to come back in. And secondly, I just don't think the upside of a Gabriel to Saliba transfer this early in the season is worth a transfer at this stage, because I think that free transfer later on could be put to better use by, for example, using 2 transfers next week or 3 transfers next week by, freeing up some cash to go from Gabriel to James when Chelsea play Luton. I mean, those are the kind of fixtures you want to target. I mean, what's the max that Saliba can get? I mean, his expected points are around 4 this week. So I really don't think that's worth a transfer.
And then my final question, Bakar, is captaincy. For you, it looks pretty obvious this week. And I think for anyone that owns Haaland and doesn't own another premium, it is quite an obvious pick, especially with the majority of our other, mid-priced assets who are great, the likes of Saka, Bruno still playing away. It does make it a little bit harder. But if you have Salah, if you went with him from game week 1 and you also have Haaland, where would you go this week?
I mean, I've made my bet. I'm going to go with Haaland. Obviously, I don't have Salah, and I'm just going to be praying that Salah keeps quiet. If you have Salah, I think you just go with captaining him, because I mean, it makes very little sense now that you've selected Salah not to captain him, because you've invested that 12.5 million of your budget in a midfielder. And realistically speaking, I think this is the only week where you can probably captain him over Haaland in the first 6 weeks. And if you have him as a differential, there's no better time to use that captaincy on him at this point in time. And I mean, us non-Salah owners are going to be scared to death. That's the case. You just roll the dice and just hope.
So he's predicted 7.1 points according to Fantasy Football Hub's algorithm, which is less than Haaland, who's predicted 8.3. Would that put you off at all, or do you think there's so much upside there in a player that, what is his ownership anyway? It's so low. Just under 30% for Mo Salah. And of course, that means that if you were to captain him, you're going to be getting so much of a differential there. What do you think?
No, I wouldn't let the predicted points put me off, because again, the upside is there to be had. And Liverpool's attack looked good against Chelsea. I would expect them to have plenty of joy versus Bournemouth. It's just the fact that he's so low owned. I mean, it's a opportunity to jump ahead of the crowd so early on. I mean, I would not miss out on such an opportunity. I mean, the ceiling is there to be had.
Yeah, imagine if it goes well. Oh, goodness me. Yeah. He's a midfielder as well, gets extra points for the goal. As we saw with Saka v Haaland, Saka gets 1 goal, Haaland gets 2, but Saka's only losing out by 3 points. I feel like there is scope to go for it if your midfielder is a player you're going to be captaining. Yeah, that fixture is juicy. We know what happened last year. It is going to be scary not owning Salah this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, now Bakar, I know you said that you were thinking of rolling a transfer this week, but nonetheless, how about this? We're going to have a look at Fantasy Football Hub's AI recommended transfer for you. Guys, you can all see this now. Bakar can't see this. So first of all, get in the comments down below. What do you think of this move before Bakar gives his opinion? A player that had a decent game week 1 versus a player that had a very, very good game week 1. And the fixtures after game week 2 anyway get very, very good. So what do you think, Bakar? Martinelli out, Maddison in is the recommendation for you. You've talked about Richarlison, so Tottenham players must have been on your mind. What do you think? That is the recommended transfer for your team.
I think it's a good option, but I want to give myself another week of information because I'm still not entirely convinced whether Maddison will be a better option than Richarlison if he's playing at that number 9 role. So I want to give myself at least one more week before deciding, and Spurs have a much better run from game week 3 onwards anyway. So I think another week of data would go a long way into helping me decide.
It is worth mentioning as well, as you can see just below, it does also recommend that you can save a transfer for game week 2. That's absolutely fine. I feel like this transfer is a bit of a luxury move, as you can see by the predicted points. Very similar up until game week 6 across the next 5 anyway. Looking at how good Maddison was, got to be slightly tempting nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, it's Maddison was incredible. I mean, well done to all those who went there this week. I was more inclined towards Richarlison, but now I want to give myself another week before I decide which option is the better one.
Absolutely. Okay, mate, that is going to do it for this one. Great to be back on a normal game week review and preview with you, my friend. We're just getting things started here. You know, I want to see these ranks decreasing very, very quickly. We're both on red arrows, my friend, because obviously everyone starts at an equal rank 1. I thought that was only fair to put us on a red arrow for game week 1. Hopefully next week we will see some greens. Guys, if you would like to have a look at your own recommended personal AI transfers, the link to do so is down below. Sign up to Fantasy Football Hub. And also, they've actually extended the deal. It's still 50% off. Now, I'm not entirely sure how long that's going to run for, but take advantage of it while you still can. And also, you can have a look at Bakar's final team reveal on the site when we get closer to the game week deadline this Friday. Bakar, thank you very much as always. And guys, I'll see you on the next game week preview.